So anyone who wants to make comments or responses, feel free.
Okay, then I do that. I unmute everybody.
Yes.
Let me see.
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
No, you have.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good, good. Now I have an audience. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, is my voice loud enough?
Yes.
Good, good. So
Yes.
two weeks ago, I spoke about this same topic, finding joy through life's challenges. But I thought there's much more to say. So I thought I would give a brief review of what I spoke about last time and then continue where I left off. So we are created for joy. Did you know that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. That's our very purpose, is for joy. And in the divine principle, it says, joy arises when we have an object partner in which our internal nature and external form are reflected and developed. God wanted his creations to be object partners embodying goodness, that he might take delight in them. When we fulfill the three blessings, we become God's object partners of love and return perfect joy to him. And so the first blessing, both the mind and God rejoice as they experience their internal nature and external form through the stimulation which their object partners give them. So I'm just running through this quickly. The second blessing, the individual feels joy, and likewise God feels joy when each perceives in this family or community the manifestation of his own internal nature and external form. The third blessing, ideal human beings receive stimulation from the world of nature. Sensing their own internal nature and external form displayed throughout the creation, they feel immense joy. So joy comes from object partners, whether it's your body and your mind, or whether it's other people in your family and beyond, or whether it's creation. Joy comes in a relationship, and that relationship is a relationship of love. So when you are living in the love of God, every cell in your body jumps for joy. This is how God means us to live, intoxicated in love and joy. And as Mother Teresa also said, where there is love, there is joy. And so I like singing. I love singing. I love cycling, and I love acting. And so I get a lot of joy from doing those three things, plus others. And I'm sure you also, when you do something you love, you feel a lot of joy. So let's continue. Last week, I talked about this book called The Book of Joy. And in it, the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, they meet in Dharamsala in northern India, where the Dalai Lama lives. And Douglas Abrams, who's a psychologist, he met with them for 1 week and asked them many questions about how they are so joyful, considering both of them have gone through many difficulties in their life. So we have to turn to suffering, because as a Buddhist, suffering is a very kind of central issue about finding joy in life. So in Sanskrit, there is a word called dukkha.
Tim, do you want to share the PowerPoint?
I am sharing it. Oh, I didn't share it. Oh, silly me. Okay. All right, I have to go back. So sorry. Where am I? Okay.
Sharing.
Down at the below, share.
Yes, share. Okay. All right, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I'll just show the pictures and I will talk until I reach the last picture. Are you okay? Can you see now?
No.
You have to choose. You click share screen and
now.
then
Now? Have you got it now?
no, you have to click share first.
I did share. Have you got it?
No. You're co-host. You should be able to do it. How does it? What does your screen look like, Tim?
It says desktop. And
no, you should. Do you have the PowerPoint open on your computer?
well, it's okay. Slideshow. I can't.
Do you want me to share it, Tim?
Wait a minute. Share. Okay, can you see it now?
No.
It said your sharing failed. Please try again later.
Okay, shall I try it?
Yeah, you do it.
She can do it. And, oh, finding joy, yes.
Okay.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, well, I can't. Where am I? I have something in the way here of my screen.
Blocking your view.
If I take this away, can you see anything now? Can you hear me?
No, but
Yes, we hear you.
now I am sharing now. So
Okay, so. Okay, sorry about that. This is called technical difficulties.
no
problem.
Anyway, so I just show you the slides I talked about, okay?
Yeah.
Finding joy, and we're created for joy, the divine principle tells us. And then through the three blessings that we can experience joy, and actually joy comes from love. And I experience joy very much from singing, cycling, and acting. And then I got onto this book of joy by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, who for 1 week were discussing how they experience joy through life's challenges. So, Inge-Marie, what picture do you have now?
now it's joy through life's challenges, and the book. We see the book.
Yes, so go to the next page.
Okay,
The book of joy. Nice.
joy and suffering.
That's the one. And there is this word in Sanskrit called dukkha, and roughly translated that means suffering, but not just the word suffering. It can mean stress, anxiety, dissatisfaction. So in life, we all experience these things. We can't avoid them. And the Buddha, he reportedly said that I have taught one thing and one thing only, suffering and the cessation of suffering. So if you're a Buddhist, that is very central to life. And the first step to joy is to accept the reality of suffering. Do you see these words?
Yes.
You should also see them, Tim.
Yeah, I've got my own copy.
But you can close your own copy and just look at the Zoom. That's
Okay, right.
Otherwise,
Okay. Next time it'll be a lot simpler. So,
then you tell me if I'm wrong clicking.
okay. So, the first step to joy is to accept the reality of suffering. We can't escape it. Yeah. I mean, this is what the Buddhists believe. And I think in life, you're going to have all kinds of challenges. You can't avoid them. The question is how you deal with them. But if you try to run away from suffering, I don't want to suffer, actually, that's not going to help you to find joy, because we have to know how to overcome the suffering. And so on the next words, yes, wanting things to be different from what they are leads to discontent, which leads to frustration and anger. So we experience all kinds of difficulties when we don't want to accept our difficulties. Next slide. And next, yeah. So I ended last week by stating these things, that we create our own suffering. Next, because of our self-centered attitude, and this is because of the fall, we became separated from God. We don't see from God's viewpoint, and basically our fallen nature because the way we're very centered upon ourselves, we can't experience joy. Next. And so we tend to have negative tendencies in our mind. We tend to see things in a negative way. We have two natures, of course. We have an original and we have a fallen nature, but we constantly are dealing with this kind of negative tendencies. Next. And then this leads to emotional reactivity. So if you have some negative thoughts and your feelings, and then something annoys you, it's very easy to kind of just spontaneously allow your emotions to come out. And this gets us into trouble. And so then we feel far from joy, and then we feel regret. Oh, why didn't I control myself? Next. And so it's our inability to use the resources within us. We create suffering. We don't know how to control it. We just kind of allow our emotions to take over. And but we have the resources. And that's why a spiritual life, that's why correct understanding gives us the resources to actually overcome these. Next. So in the same way we create suffering, we can create joy. To create joy, that means to have a compassionate concern for the well-being of others, to be unselfish. Next. And to have developed positive tendencies of our mind. Next. To learn to control our emotional reactions. And finally, to practice, have daily spiritual practices. So this is what the Dalai Lama talks about, and I think this is very much makes sense. Next. So when they met for 1 week, the first what they did is they actually looked at what are the obstacles to joy, what stops us from experiencing joy, what makes it difficult. So there is stress, and you can show all of them: stress, sadness, anxiety, fear, loneliness, envy, frustration, anger, despair, illness, and grief. So all of these things we can experience. So you get up in the morning and you want to be stress-free, but actually you get stressed because you're running around like crazy, trying to find things and rushing out the house. And when you're at work, you get stressed because there's too many demands upon you. And then all these feelings like sadness, anxiety, it's like you can't avoid them. They will happen to you. Yeah. So this is part of the kind of the suffering we experience, which kind of we don't want to, but whether we create suffering through our own way of thinking, or whether we meet people or situations which create a lot of problems, they're obstacles. And the question is, how do we deal with them? Next.
Yeah, just one thing, Tim. Can I send out this PowerPoint as a PDF file to everybody afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah, so because I see Liliana, you take photos.
Laura then take photo.
And Laura also take photos.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to put them in Facebook.
Okay. But
Yeah.
but this is so good, so I can send out the PowerPoint as a PDF, so everybody can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. To continue.
Thank you, Tim.
So actually, as they talked for 1 week, there were kind of eight areas of joy, of like pillars. In order to create joy, there are 8 different things within ourselves that we need to create. So the first, there were actually 4 qualities of mind. The first one is perspective, how you look at life, because we're all different, and we think differently, we see things differently, and it makes it creates all kind of problems because we don't see through God's eyes. Next. Humility. Next. Humor. And next. Acceptance. So these 4 are the qualities of mind, the way we think, our attitudes, which can make a big difference. And then next, there are 4 qualities of heart. Next. Forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. So we need those kind of qualities within our minds, but not just through our intellect and through our kind of making effort, but also we need those qualities in our hearts. So today I want to look at the first one, perspective. So let's go to that. So what does the Dalai Lama say about perspective? Next. We have perceptions about our experience and we judge them. This is good, this is bad, or this is neutral. Then we have responses, fear, frustration, anger. We realize that these are just different aspects of mind. They are not the actual reality. It's just how we feel. So I might look at something and consider this is bad, and someone else will think it's good. So what is the truth? Next. Look at any situation or problem from a larger perspective. Look from the front, the back, the left, the right, the top, the bottom. Look at it from all different kinds of angles, because a larger perspective leads to a serenity and calm. Then we don't get emotionally tied up because we can see what, how does the other person see it? Or how else can I look at this problem? What did I do to cause it? Or what were the circumstances around? Would I react differently again? So if we look at it from many different angles, this actually creates a calmness within ourselves. Next. So the Dalai Lama, when he was a child and he lived in Tibet, there was one part of where he lived, there was a dark place. And he heard there were ghosts there. So every time he traveled through this dark place, he got afraid. But it was all in his imagination. Actually, there were no ghosts. He didn't see a ghost. No ghost came up to him, but he created in his mind that fear. Next. So as a young Dalai Lama, he because of his position, then he had to also teach groups of people. But he was young, and he was given this title, I'm the Dalai Lama, and then these are the people I'm teaching. But because he had this title, he felt this expectation upon him that he's supposed to be a kind of wiser than them. So he felt a separation from them. He felt different. And when he felt different, he kind of felt nervous and not worthy of this. So what he learned from that, now that he's older, he realized actually those people are no different than me. I'm just another human being. And this is one of his constant themes. When he feels we're all the same, we're all connected, we're just human beings, then the separation between people is not there. And then you don't feel this fear of people. And so it helps you to be, your perspective changes, because there are there's over 7 billion people in this world. There's only one Dalai Lama. If he thinks like that, then there's a separation. But if he feels, well, I'm just like you. So it's the same with our movement, with true parents. If we put them up on a pedestal and we feel they're so far away from us, and God also is so far, we feel separation. But if we understand that true parents are just like you and I, they've gone through many challenges, but they're human beings, created in God's image, just like me, just like you. And the same with God. Rather than putting God far away, to understand God created us in his image, so he's just like us. And then it bridges the gap. Next. So this is a story about a teacher in Jerusalem. He had students, some were Israeli and some were Palestinians. And the Palestinian students, they were kind of afraid and anxious when they left the class, because they had to go through an Israeli checkpoint. So what the teacher did to try to help them, he said, we're all created in God's image. So when you meet that soldier, he's just like you. He is God's child. He has God's spirit in him. So when they took that attitude, it actually helped them not to feel this kind of distrust and fear or aggression and suspicion. Then they could look at the soldiers differently. Next. So have you ever been involved in a very busy traffic, and there's or there's some kind of accident and you're stuck and you can't move and you get frustrated. Does that happen to any of you? Yeah. Yes, maybe it happens every day, especially if you're on your way to work. So here, not the Dalai Lama, but Desmond Tutu, he talked about a situation where he was on his way to some meeting and he had to be there on time. And so he was getting anxious. And Desmond Tutu, he's a little different from the Dalai Lama, because the Dalai Lama talks about using your mind to kind of control yourself. But Desmond Tutu said, but we're also human, and sometimes, because we're not perfect, we do our emotions maybe get the better of us, and so we shouldn't beat ourselves up because we're not perfect, So that was another aspect, I thought, to actually look at ourselves and realize we're not perfect, rather than trying to live up to some ideal, which is we can't actually get there and always feeling guilty. We should change our perspective and just say, well, we're trying and we're working at it, and God loves me anyway. But in busy traffic, there was an example where Desmond Tutu, this crazy driver drove right in front of him, like across his path, which could have caused an accident. But rather than getting angry, he laughed and he said, oh, well, he must have been in a rush. Maybe his wife was expecting a baby, had to go to the hospital, or maybe he had someone who was sick. So if you change perspective, when people behave badly and you try to understand from their viewpoint, maybe then your perspective changes. Then you don't allow your anger to take over. Next. Next picture. Aha, yes. So this is Edith Eva Eger. She's an Auschwitz survivor. And she tells a story about this woman who was very weak in Auschwitz, but she was hanging on. And then when she asked her, how come you're managing to stay alive even though you're very ill? And she said, well, I've heard that on Christmas Day we're going to be liberated, and that's why I'm not going to give up. Well, Christmas Day came, and they were not liberated. And guess what? On Christmas Day, this lady died. She gave up hope because her perspective changed. She thought, well, there's no hope, therefore no life. Next. So Edith also tells a story about two injured soldiers. She heard about these, and two American soldiers, and both of them had lost their legs in war. But one of them was in the hospital, lying like in a fetal position and feeling like, life is so unfair and what's the point of life? And it's so terrible. And he was like wasting away. But there's another soldier in the same hospital. He was sitting in his wheelchair and he was going outside and he said, I'm so happy I have been given another chance, and I can go out into the garden, I can look at the flowers and smell them, and I can see the faces of my children. So the perspective makes a huge difference. So you could say they both suffered, but this man in the wheelchair, he was not allowing that suffering to destroy his life. He was seeing the joy in life. Next. And so here we are. This is our Earth. On this planet, we have wars and rumors of wars and conflicts all throughout history. But this photograph was taken by astronauts. And when astronauts go up into space and they see the Earth from space, it changes their whole view. There are no walls. There are no different countries. It's just one planet created by God. Next. So something interesting, some research has been done that about shifting our focus, because we have these pronouns, I, me, my, we, us, our, and you. So the health researcher, Larry Sverts, he studied people and he said, the more you use the words I, me, and mine, or my, you have a higher risk of a heart attack. It's a better predictor of death than smoking, high cholesterol, or high blood pressure. And Johannes Zimmermann, another researcher, he found there's a greater chance of having depression if you use these I words, I, me, mine, more than we, us, and our, because we, us, and our is we're connected. And of course, we're connected, I'm connected to you, because that's we and that's us. So that was interesting. Next. So today I was looking at these 8 pillars of joy. The first one, perspectives, because, in the Garden of Eden, the problem is that Lucifer did not take God's viewpoint. He did not look at Adam and Eve as God's children. He felt jealous. And Adam and Eve did not take God's viewpoint when it came to obeying the commandment. They just followed their feelings and their own personal desires. And so you could say at the root of the problem is that we don't have God's perspective. We don't look through the eyes of love. So I suppose the foundation of creating a life of joy is to look through God's eyes. And so if we go through difficulties and challenges, rather than just feeling, why did God create so much suffering? Why doesn't he do something about it? Actually, the difficulties we have, they're also there for us to grow, because if we had no difficulties, we wouldn't grow. And not that we want suffering, but since it will happen, how do we deal with it? And so now I'd like to just look at all those other, if you can just then press on all of them until we get to the end. So this is, well, you can go back. So this is where I'm going to stop, because I think this theme of finding joy through life's challenges can very easily be developed. And so if I have another chance, then I will continue where I have left off. And with that, I'd like to finish. Thank you very much.
Bravo.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Yeah, I think we can learn a lot from Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments from the heart? Laura, you said bravo. You will use it in your practice on your homepage?
Yeah, I can use some inspirational quote for my marketing.
Hey.
Helping people. Yeah, that's good.
Vill någon annan säga någonting?
Jag har en fråga till Tim.
Ja.
Vad hette me, my, yours, we, you?
Personal pronouns. Personal pronouns.
And vad hette forskaren?
What was the author's name?
Aha, okay.
Yeah. English.
Larry Svert. Actually, I can Larry, and his second name SCHERWITZ. And there was another researcher, Johannes Zimmermann.